Hello everyone, thank you and welcome for joining us for today's webinar. Let me begin by introducing myself. This is Heman. I'm a research associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. I'm pleased to moderate this webinar. SARIM is an organization having the mission and vision for defending the right of South Asian minorities. The institute aims to highlight the plight and victimization faced by marginal minority communities. SARIM through a regular updated database, publication of annual reports, international conferences, seminars and webinars with the field experts and researchers, promotes the culture of constructive dialogue to highlight the issues and vulnerabilities faced by minority communities and raise the voice of safeguard to their rights, specifically within South Asian countries. However, SARIM find ways to protect minorities against systematic discrimination and social injustice. In South Asia, in the wake of hatred and violence, SARIM arose an organization with a mission and slogan of defending the right of South Asian minorities. And today we are talking about averting disharmony and discrimination of South Asian minorities through social media. And social media has increased hate speech across South Asia with hundreds of videos seeking to promote hate for minorities uploaded to WhatsApp, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter in various languages daily. However, one can also use this platform to mitigate the ever-rising issue of discrimination, as social media plays a vital role in everyday life of almost every individual. This platform possesses a great impact on the minds of people and hold a powerful to inculcate a person's mentality and perception. And there is a high prospect to lessen and, if possible, eradicate the problem faced by minority communities. Moving forward, we had fantastic series of speakers from Pakistan, India and Nepal. Our first speaker is Dr. Kalyani. She is an assistant professor at Azim Premji University, Bangalore and has completed her PhD in sociology. Her research area is ethnography, cultural studies, social movement, gender studies, caste, media and communication. Kalyani has published several papers on her area and other diverse topics. Dr. Kalyani, go ahead and shed some light on this current scenario.
I thank you, Heman, for that brief introduction. And also, I would like to thank South Asia Research Institute for Minorities for organizing such important issue-based event talking about social media problems and the prospects through which it can be corrected. I think in contemporary times, it's important to discuss about social media and also how we engage with the issue of social media, precisely because social media is not just producing content, but it also circulates and in a way creates an opinion and views of people. It shapes the views and opinion. So it's very important that when we discuss the issues of minorities and when we discuss the issues of Dalit Bahujan communities, we need to engage with the question of social media. So I really thank SARIM for introducing such an important issue through this webinar. Now, I've been told to speak for 10 to 15 minutes so that all presenters have enough time slot. Also, much of things can be taken up in the question answer sessions as well. So to begin with, I would like to engage with this whole question of what is social media and why do we need to engage with the question of social media. Coming from sociology, I think this word social media itself has a sociological significance. It is contained within the society and it somehow, it is an important social fact, one can say in Durkheimian terms, that actually it actually creates a message within the society. So again, to come to what is social media, one can say, is a relatively new platform. When we talk about media, there has been an engagement with media and mediatized spaces. With the coming up of print culture, for example, and with the coming up of print economy, there has been the circulation of information that have been happening. And there have been ways in which the informations have been disseminated. However, it's important that when we engage with the whole context of social media, we need to understand the kind of digital mediated subjectivities it generates. So, so when one looks into the social media spaces, it is not just a space of disseminating information, which it is to a large extent, but it does a lot more than just information dissemination. It creates opinion in a way, and it circulates those opinion in a way that has the capacity to encapsulate a large volume of people. And secondly, it also generates a certain kind of visuality, a certain kind of tactility, through which there is a kind of there is a kind of, one can say, adherence to social media to a large extent. And it's also interesting to see that when it comes to younger population, it has a lot of impact in the mind of youngsters and younger population, even though now it has expanded its realm and we find the cohort of all ages participating within the social media. So it is in its very reach, and it's in its very inevitability, and it in its very expansion, that social media relevance exists, and hence one needs to engage with the question of social media. For the question of anti-caste, or for the question of minority issues, I think social media becomes even more important, because when it comes to the question of justice for Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi, and for minority communities, the question of justice is not very easy. It's not it's if there are provisions in constitutions, or there are legal provisions and it's granted. Somewhere, much of the rights have to be taken, and it has to be ascertained, and opinions have to be created around them, so that people actually adhere to these legal and constitutional rights that actually can affect the Dalit, Bahujan minority and Adivasi communities. So I think the relevance of social media lies there. The second thing I want to discuss is about again taking the theory of social media a bit far-fetched, and I want to discuss what the medium of social media does. So there is a very popular work by McLuhan, which the medium is the message, where he actually talks about how the medium is an important factor through which one can understand how the information is actually perceived. So I think with social media, the way information is unfolded, it actually creates a very different kind of impact in people's mind. So information is not just about a particular piece of fact, but it is also how people are reacting to it. So we have different emojis, we have different ways of commenting, and different GIFs and different kind of memes that come up. So these are also a way of communication, and it also creates an impact in people's mind. So the communication through social media is a very different kind of medium, and hence the engagement with social media is very important. And particularly when it comes to the question of minorities, and particularly to the question of DBA communities, the social media engagement becomes important. That was the good part of social media. However, one cannot say that it is limited. The social media is the world in itself. No, it is not so. It has its limitations as well. So, for instance, when one looks into social movements that have happened across India, there have been an important role of people, and people working on ground, and people who have been engaging in person with the community and with the society. However, with social media, there is also the problem with social media has been that there has been a kind of incongruence that it has created between the masses and the people who are also willing to participate in the social movement. So somewhere there is also I would say, a chasm or a gap that has developed because of social media. Because somewhere people think that they will tweet for a justice question, or they will raise a hashtag, and that can resolve the issue. However, in reality, that is not so. It might create an it might create an opinion. It might create a view which is very important, but that cannot be the ultimate worldview. I think one has to look into social media and the question of social movement together. And I think with the DBA movement, or at least with the Bahujan Andolan, as one can see in North India, the failure was one of the reason for failure, or one of the reason of decline, I would say, has been that people think, or the activists are just active on social media. They're raising hashtags, they're raising issues, and they're raising Twitter trends and things like that. But somewhere, when it comes to connecting with society on ground, there is that gap. So while social media can be a good beginning point, I think one needs to also look into the limitations of the social media. Now, when it comes to contemporary practices in social media, and the ways in which the ways in which social media has unfolded itself to Dalit communities or to the minority communities, it's very significant, because we have been there in this COVID times, and in COVID times we have seen the role of social media has become very tricky. So, for example, when we look into the issue of Tabligh ki Jamaat that happened way back in 2020, the social media created a fuss. I mean, and it actually criminalized a minority community in India. So why this was happening? Because there were certain fake accounts, there were certain targeted motives behind that, and social media was actually able to pitch on those issues. And in the times when people were actually caged inside their houses, social media became a way to propagate propaganda against, for example, Muslims in India through the whole issue of Tabligh ki Jamaat that happened. Similarly, when it comes to Dalit issues, there has been social media, I would say, has been a double-edged sword. And I say this because somewhere there has been an important way in which social media has pitched on for the Dalit issues. Hahowever, there are also limitations to these issues. So, for example, when we look into the cases, the Dalit violence cases like the Hathras case and the case like the Allahabad rape case that happened recently, there were furor across social media, and somewhere the cognizance of the cases were taken to some extent because there was presence of these issues felt within the social media. However, was there an ultimate justice provided to these people from, or these Dalit women from Allahabad or from Hathras? No, precisely because the whole thing about pitching in was important and it was significantly done, but there was lack of work on ground and lack of engagement of people and community on ground. So I think what I want to argue through my opinion today is that while social media has been important and it has been an important pitching point, one also needs to connect it with the ground reality. And until one do so, I think it will remain to be a fishy ground. So I think I'll stop there and I can take in questions later on.
Thank you very much, Kalyani, for highlighting this. This was really insightful. Thank you for sharing that. So moving forward, our next speaker is Rachana Sunar. She is the founder and director at the IDEA Nepal, working against child marriage and the rights of Dalit children and the women empowerment in Nepal. Thank you for joining, Ms. Sunar. Over to you.
Namaste to all the ladies and gentlemen and all the respected audience who have been listening us. I would like to extend my thanks to SARIM for organizing this insightful event, especially fighting against of discriminations and building harmony and helping the minorities to access their human rights. And I feel so pleased to share my experiences and my field of expertise in this field today. And I feel so honored to be as a part of this event. And Nepal is a very beautiful country with the varieties of different caste, cultures, customs, and we have varieties in the language we speak, food we eat, and customs we wear. And there are like different minorities group in Nepal who are lesser in number. And in a simple understanding, I understand the minority groups refers to the smaller group in representations or weaker section in the policy making or decision making positions and inclusion in the politics. And minorities groups are disadvantaged groups accessing their social resources, and they are the vulnerable group in the society who don't even get their basic human civil rights. So in Nepal, there are certain groups that we call them minorities, are the mainly Dalit people and Muslim by religion and Madhesi people by geographical status, and Gurung, Magar, Tamang, Rai, Limbu, Chetri, Raute, those are the caste group, indigenous caste group, and they are also called as a minority groups. So these minorities groups, somehow they are excluded from social, economical, educational, and political status, and they don't even get their own rights in representations. So in Nepal, there are almost 123 caste systems, ethnic groups, and nearly 125 languages that we speak. But mainly Kshetris and Hindus, those non-Dalit groups are ruling the country and they are controlled over the country, and all those minorities groups are being controlled by mostly hill-based Brahmin and Kshetris group. In the context of Nepal, I would like to highlight the issues of Dalit people face and how we suffer from generation to generation, and what is the condition of today, the Dalit's life, and how it can be changed through social media. And I would like to express my own experience as a Dalit activist and as a Dalit girl in my society, how I have grew up and what are the impacts and effects that it has made into my mental health, my well-being, and my overall social well-being in status. So in total, 13.9% of Dalit people are covered in the total number of the Nepal. And I am Dalit girl, proudly say that I feel proud to be a Dalit. The fact that the society doesn't see me as worthy as other people. Just because of my caste, I was less worthy. I was so-called untouchable. So I was not even allowed to visit my friend's house in my childhood. I was not even allowed to touch the water pots when we would go to get the water supply from the public water taps. And I was always prohibited in the line. So I had to wait 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour until the line or queue would be finished. And then after I would get my turn to get the water. And somewhat this has affected my education because I would be the late and I would be delayed in the school and I would get the severe punishment in the classroom just because I was late. You know, the level of punishment would be even different from their based on their caste, color, and class in the classroom. And I would be the one having the highest level of the punishment from my teachers and my peer friends. So this has given me the mindset that always made me realize that I am weaker, I am smaller, and I am less worthy in the society. So I have to limit my access. Where should I move? Where should I enter? What should I wear? What should I eat? And to whom I should speak? So it has limited, it has shaped my mindset in my childhood. But later on, when I understood the caste system and our rights, and as a human, we have to have the common rights as other people do. And then I came to understand that this is not fair and this is injustice to be different, to be treated differently in the society. Caste discrimination affects like an estimated nearly 260 million people worldwide, and it has a vast majority in living in South Asia. It involves massive violation of civil, political, economical, social, and cultural rights. Caste system divide people into unequal and hierarchical social groups. Those at the bottom, the lowest, considered as a lesser human or third-class citizens even in our own country. And when they call us impure and untouchable, and I question, what do you see in me that is impure? Don't I look similar to you? Don't I have the same blood and same nature as you have? And what makes you to think me different? So I would like to question this to all the audience, whoever is watching through this social platform that we are being getting this platform today to speak. And I would like to question that, why do you think that Dalit people are different and they are weaker and vulnerable than you, and they are not less capable than you? In 2018, the Caste-Based Discrimination and Untouchability Offence and Punishment Act criminalized untouchability, exclusion, and restrictions on the basis of caste and introduced to a penalty of imprisonment up to 3 years and with a fine up to 2 lakhs, nearly 2,000 US dollar by the Nepali government in our constitutional rights, which is the bright side. But I am sadly saying here that our constitutional rights and our constitutional laws and provisions are not being sufficiently practiced in our daily lives. That impacts in Dalit's life. And still, the violation against Dalit people is happening in our society. People are being killed, being physically bullied, and being socially and emotionally just educated in the society just because of our caste. And our constitutional rights is not giving us the security in our lives that we are being protected or we are being well cared by the government. Still, we are subject to many social crimes and our physical damage and emotional damage that happens day-to-day life. And I strongly believe that these things can be changed when we use the tool of social media, and social media can enhance the opportunities to raise awareness against all those harmful practices of our society. Caste-based discrimination is very, very inhuman, harmful practice of our society, and it can be highlighted in social media, and people can pass their messages, their views, and their opinions, and they can support the petitions to end these bad practices of the society if they would take it as a positive way. And I strongly believe that social media can play transformative role for achieving the social harmony and human dignity by breaking the chain of this stereotype, gender-based inequality, caste-based discrimination, and promoting freedom of religion and promoting the people's rights of their identities by challenging traditional social and cultural norms and attitudes regarding people's mindset and equality and equity. So it can also enhance the opportunity for promoting the leadership of people belonging from that minority group and giving them opportunities to expression their emotions and all the suffers that they have been through. Then maybe the next generation can can be educated and they can eliminate these harmful practices from the society. So this is the role that social media can play. But I am here to say that social media is not being a piece of cake when talking in the favor of promoting social justice and social harmony in our society. That whenever caste-based some incident happens in the social media and it boosts everywhere and all the people get access of this, and suddenly I find two major groups. One says, no, this is wrong, that there is no caste-based discrimination. Our constitution says that there is no caste-based discrimination and there is nothing, like there is no such things that we should discuss on. And that Dalit people are barking. They are the one who are highlighting their problems and they are making vulnerable themselves. Why do you have to call yourself Dalit? Just shut your mouth and just act like a normal people. But on the other hand, there is another group of people says that we are being suffered. I have experienced this, and this is injustice, and we have to fight for this, and we have to provoke this message, and we have to immunize. So there are two different groups in Angusters. Some believe in, and some go totally against of this. And social media gives the equal opportunity to people to promote social harmony or also discriminate the vulnerable or minorities group. There are many incidents that I can share. 3 years back, there was a mass scares in Paschim Rukum. 6 boys were killed by the whole villager just because the boy wanted to marry a girl from non-Dalit community, and the fault he had done was loving a girl from non-Dalit community. And the entire village went against of this, and they killed 6 people, including his 5 other friends, in the river bank of very, very river. And the news was well spread all over the Nepal, and early in the morning I woke up with this news, and I was literally crying to see this, like, inhuman mankind, like how one can be so violent and how they could kill 6 young people just because of their caste. And this is so severe, and that impacted to my well-being and my mental health. Like for weeks and weeks I was so dark in my thoughts, and I was so deprived, and it made me so vulnerable to think that why Dalit people has to face. Somehow there were some other people promoting, commenting, or sharing the news into their circles, saying that, oh, well done, this has to be done in this way, and Dalit people should learn the lesson. How dare he could imagine having a wife from non-Dalit community, because he over-imagined and he crossed the limitation, so he has to pay the price with his date. And this is all good, and people were like promoting and commenting, and they were like sharing to their circle, and even bullying people who would talk against of their opinion. And it's just like, the mobile war. People would just humiliate you just because of your caste, and they get easily access to message you or to discriminate you, pointing you. And this is not being something positive side for promoting human harmony or human justice and social justice. So all I have to say is we have to know the limitation. As Kalyani says, that we have to use social media in positive way to spread the awareness and to aware people, to educate people, to provide opportunities and platform to people who want to speak out, who want to share their voices, their stories out to the society and out to the world. So that how we can change. And the solutions are still, I would like to highlight what are the solutions to solve the problems of Dalit people, that we have to invest in education and eliminate poverty, because poverty is one of the main cause that makes Dalit people even downer and lesser, and living under the poverty is being the biggest weakness of Dalit people, that they cannot go to school, they cannot get high education and good health facilities, and they always belong to the lower categories in the society. So somehow we have to empower and educate religious leaders, political leaders, to break these harmful practices of caste-based discrimination. And social media can be a wonderful platform if our religious leader can speak up the truth that all the castes are equal and there should not be any discrimination based on their caste and religion and class. And also our political leaders has the huge chances if they use social media to convince their followers, to convince people to fight against of these harmful practices and to unite, to be unitized and to have the social harmony if they would use social media and share their opinions to convince people to break this stereotype. So this SARIM event today is also one of the great example that how Dalit people from across the globe can be united, because when we look in the institutional structure, that Dalit people have not made one institutional structure who could justify or advocate for Dalit rights. And SARIM is doing wonderful job for providing social media platform, involving people from different fields to raise the issues and to break the silence. And in social media, I found this morning so many people have said that we have get this life just at once, so we have to live the life we want. So whoever is watching or whoever will watching this event, I would like to ask, we have burned as a Dalit in society and we have just got this life at once. Should we waste this life being discriminated all the time? Or why should we live the life under the pressure or under the discrimination or in a certain circumstance if this life is gifted and if this is meant to be just only once? 18 years old boy Ajit Nizar was killed almost 4 years ago, and his dead body is still in teaching hospital waiting for justice. He was killed just because he married a girl from non-Dalit community, and his dead body is still waiting in teaching hospital asking for human rights. And I disclose my speech here. Will he get justice? And I have a very small baby boy, nearly 2 years old, and I don't want to see him being discriminated and being subject to Dalit and being discriminated from the society the way I was, the way I experienced. I don't want to give the same experience to my baby. I want to make change, and I want this to be changed. And I think this is all possible if we use our voices, our social media platform to raise awareness, to break the silence. Thank you.
Really sad to hear the suffering you have experienced, Miss Rachana, and I appreciate that you have survived it with strength. Now I would like to turn it over to Faiqa, my co-host, to welcome our next speaker. Thank you, Faiqa. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Heman. Moving forward, I would like to invite our next speaker, Mohammad Asif Khan. He is an Indian Muslim activist and socio-political commentator and has been documenting cases of mob lynching, hate crimes, and Islamophobia in India since few years. He has been participating in SARIM webinars, and we welcome him once again. Over to you, Mohammad Asif.
Thank you very much for having me here on this webinar. So I was told that we have to discuss how we can combat the hatred by using social media. So it reminds me of a quote of Malcolm X who had said, "The media is one of the most powerful entity on this earth. It can make a guilty into innocent and innocent into guilty because it controls the mind of masses." Well, in today's era, social media has replaced the word media, and it is doing the same thing. What it's doing is controlling the mind of the masses. I'm not saying that each and every individual is using the social media, but a large section of the society is using social media, whether it is Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever. And those people who control the media also control the social media, and they are using it. I mean, the situation can be different as per the country. I mean, in India it is different, in Nepal it is different, in Pakistan is different. But ultimately, as far as the hatred against the minority is concerned in India and few other countries as well, like Myanmar, Sri Lanka, it was sponsored by those people who were ruling the countries. So first, if we want to fight against the hatred, we need to know where it is coming from. We need to know the root cause of it. So everything is sponsored. Everything is being done in a very well organized way. It is not spontaneous that someone, they are not random people who are talking against the minorities, or they're spreading hatred and inciting violence and hatred, communal tension. They are those people who are being paid for it. They are those people who have some vested interest into it. I'm not saying that millions of people are being paid to spread the hatred in the society, but you don't need millions of Joseph Goebbels to spread the hatred. You just need one Joseph Goebbels, and he will control the opinion of the people. He will control the masses, and he will use them as a foot soldier. So that's what they are doing. They don't need to pay millions of people, but there are thousands of people who are employed by those people who want to control the opinion of the masses, and those thousands of people are radicalizing another hundreds of thousands of people through social media. This is what's happening. So if you see any kind of trend or any kind of head campaign or being run on the social media, on WhatsApp, Twitter, it is not spontaneous. People are not doing it on their own. They are being ordered to do that kind of things. Everything happening in the systematic way. And who is responsible for it? Of course, the society, those people who are ruling the country, and most important, the social media giants, the companies who are earning the profit for hatred, they are also responsible for it. For example, I read a report 1 year or 2 years ago that Facebook has accepted that it had played a very important role to spread hatred against the Rohingya Muslim in the Myanmar and the Muslim and Christian and other minorities in the Sri Lanka. That's what they are doing in India as well. They are deliberately allowing those people on their social media platform who are continuously inciting hatred and violence on social media. So if we want to combat the hatred on social media, first we need to hold them accountable, those social media giants accountable, how they can allow such kind of things on their platform. They have different rules for first world countries. I mean, they have, they suspended even Donald Trump, but they will not suspend a troll in India or in South Asia in general. So we need to hold them accountable first. If they need to regular their policy, they need to suspend those accounts, permanently ban them who are spreading such kind of things. This is just one aspect. You cannot control hatred by suspending those people, because society itself has been radicalized. They're continually being fed with the misinformation, disinformation, and the propaganda. So if you want to use social media, first you need to control the hatred by banning hateful people on the social media. Second thing is that you need to understand how hatred is being generated. If hatred is being generated by pumping money and muscle power, then you also need to create that kind of mechanism to counter it. Those people who are anti-hatred, anti-hate activists, or who want peace and justice and love in the society, unfortunately, they are not very well organized. I've been studying all these things for many years, and one thing I have realized, those people who are villain in that story, they are very well organized. Bad people are always organized in their mission, and good people are never organized. They don't do things in organized way. They do not have a mechanism. They have media, they have social media, they have their foot soldier. The good people have nothing. There are certain individuals who are sitting in, one is sitting in east and some sitting in north and south, and they are trying on individual level to combat this organized mission, hate campaign, and they will not succeed because that is not enough. Individual effort not enough. You need to put collective effort to overcome that hatred. So, how to use now? Question is how to use social media. You need to reach out to people because those people who are spreading hatred, they are not robot, they are not computer, they are real people, and they are anyhow their mind has been brainwashed or programmed to spread the hatred in the society. And hatred is just like when a drug addicted. When you are addicted to drug, you need to consume it, and the more you consume the drug, you will feel relaxed and you will enjoy it. Hatred is the same thing. Like someone is addicted to the social media and addicted to hatred, he will spread it on every day. I mean, yesterday he abused 5 people. Today he would be happy. He would be able to abuse 10 people. So you need to reach out to the people, as Miss Kalyani was talking about, that social media has its limitation. You need some activism on the ground as well. So beyond the social media, those people who really want to fight the hatred, they also need to run a campaign on the social media. So beyond the social media, on the ground, they need to reach out to the people. They need to talk to them. They need to tell them whatever is happening is wrong. This is the right thing. And I think you don't need to tell masses what is right thing, what is wrong thing. You just need to reprogram their mind, because once their program has been brainwashed by wrong people, you need to re-brainwash their mind again for the right thing. So when society, if the majority, suppose if 80% people in the society are good people, then it will be reflected on social media as well. But unfortunately, if social media is full of hateful people, it means it reflects the reality of the society as well. In the society, the majority is highly radicalized and communalized. So on social media, if you need more people who understand that how it can be fought. I mean, there are people who don't understand social media because the lack of the digital literacy is the main reason behind it. Digital literacy is very important. Most of the people, I can tell with the full responsibility, those who are social media users, they do not know how digital media works. Whatever misinformation or disinformation is being fed to them, they consume it by assuming that it is right, it is correct. They don't even know how to fact check it. Fact check is important thing. That is why there are so many incidents happening in India particularly, where people have been lynched on the basis of rumor which was spread on WhatsApp. Can you imagine? There was a series of mob lynching in India based on WhatsApp rumors. So how did it happen? Because people are not digitally literate. So whatever information come to them on social media, on WhatsApp or Telegram, whatever, they consider it as gospel truth. They think so, since it came on WhatsApp, it must be right, 100% correct. That's not the case. Most of the information which you receive on social media, it is fake news. Or by default, you should consider it as fake news until and unless it is proved otherwise. This should be the rule. This should be the norm. Whatever information you are consuming from social media, it must be fake news until and unless it is proved otherwise. So this is very important step to educate people for the how to use the social media, how to counter the misinformation and disinformation as well. When people will learn about it, at least I won't say the 100% problem will be solved, but 20, 30, 40% problem will be solved. Because again, there are people who are by default hateful. They have their political vested interest into the hatred. They also knew what they are talking about on social media. It is fake news. They also knew what they are talking about certain religion, certain community. It is a hateful comment. Still, they are doing it because they are programmed to do that way. Their mind has been brainwashed that way. So it cannot change overnight. You cannot change a society overnight because they had been consuming hatred for so many years. It will take time, but you need a program to change, to educate people. Now, how to use the social media, it can be helpful. Like if they have, for example, 1 million people are spreading hatred, you also need at least 500,000 people in your group, 500,000 people who align with your ideology, who align with your idea of peace and love, who agree with your idea of, an equal society, who agree with your idea of basic humanity, who agree with the idea that every human is equal. Attacking someone on the basis of religion, race, caste, creed, or country or nationality is hatred or is a hateful thing. It is xenophobia, Islamophobia, casteism, whatever it is. So we need to reach out to people, and once you will have that kind of mechanism on social media and that mechanism on in the ground reality as well, I think it would be it would be useful, and you can create a better society where there you cannot create 100% ideal society. It exists in utopia only, but I think you can create a better civilized society where hateful people are less in numbers and peaceful people are more in number. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammad Asif, for your valuable contribution to our panel. Moving forward, our next speaker is Elaine Alam, a human rights activist and practitioner from Pakistan. Over to you, Elaine.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. Thank you to SARIM, especially, it's very difficult also running an organization that contributes to these topics. So I understand that you're working very actively on human rights and religious minorities. So yes, congratulations on that. And thank you for bringing up this topic and also inviting me to speak about it. I won't take much time because I will also have to drop off. But I think that I think this is one of the most contemporary issues that we see when we're talking about religious minorities, freedom of religion, human rights in sort of the South Asian context. And we've been looking at laws, and we've been looking at the legal implications that domestic legislations have on the lives of religious minorities and how that they infringe the rights of religious minorities. But I think the use of social media and hate speech on social media is one of the most contemporary issues that we face nowadays, and we haven't really I think as a community and as a region, we're still struggling to find our way around sort of dealing with hate speech on social media. I agree with the previous speaker that this is a very sort of politicized issue. It's being that social media is being used to promote hate and to promote hate speech against religious groups, especially minority religious groups in South Asia. So it's also in Pakistan, in India, and all the countries that we're speaking about here in South Asia. And it's, the likelihood of religious minorities being targeted because of the hate speech on social media has also become very high. So even if it's you're doing online hate speech, and that online hate speech is politicized and there are people who are behind it, but then in offline spaces you see that that hate speech has a very high impact. And what it does is that it also promotes mob violence. It promotes other kinds of hate narratives against religious minorities. But But what happens as a result of that, of allegedly accusing someone, is also far bigger, and there is no criminalization for that, for what somebody does to incite that kind of violence and to incite that kind of hate speech. The other problem that we also have is that we don't have a clear definition, or we don't have a clear understanding of what hate speech is, and a lot of the issues sort of get lost in sort of ifs and buts, and saying, no, but this person did commit this crime, or this person did not. But there is no clear understanding of what hate speech is, and that is missing from our law, that is missing from domestic laws. We know that the international framework gives us a very strong sort of understanding that that everybody is equal, regardless of, there's freedom of speech, there's freedom of expression, there's freedom of association, there's freedom of religion and belief, and this is all laid out in our Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's laid out in the international frameworks. We have the EU conventions that keep us afloat, and that keep us that are there to hold us accountable as well against violence against religious minorities. But you also see that there is a large discussion taking place around the world about where that freedom stops. I think that's also something that's being discussed. I might not agree with some of the discussions generally, but the point is that that freedom online has to definitely take a stop somewhere, and there have to be sort of also domestic laws and domestic frameworks that I can identify that kind of hate speech. I think the first step is identifying it. If we don't identify something as hate speech or an act of inciting violence against a religious group, then there's nothing, then you can't take a second step towards it, to criminalize it, or to take action against it, or to stop that kind of hate speech or that misuse of social media, for inciting violence. So I think that we need to also sort of have this discussion about, how do we promote or make people aware about how people are using social media, and they think they've just written something, voicing their opinion about a religious minority, and without knowing the facts, or without knowing their rights, without having sort of, you could say, just general knowledge for that matter. What kind of impact we need to create that awareness, that what kind of impact does that have? Their speech or whatever they have said, that has a very high impact. That's one person who has said something maybe, but then that incites violence to the extent that an entire village could be affected by it. Like the entire households from a village would be maybe forced to leave their homes. So that is, and the second issue is also the issue of forced conversions. Again, there are such nuances to this issue that we haven't found a way to deal with it, and to create that discourse to say that, of course, this is wrong in so many ways. So with the issue of forced conversions, the first kind of backlash that we would get is that there are young girls who leave their own communities and their own households because they want to escape poverty. But what we are not questioning is that why does that involve a whole series of violence against a girl and discrimination against a minority young girl? So why does a minority girl have to be kidnapped, if it's for free will? Why does a minority girl have to be raped? Why does she have to be forcefully converted? So all of these questions about violence and about people's opinion sort of on social media have to be dealt with in a more sort of nuanced way. It's a contemporary issue, and we're still finding our way around it. But I think the same tool, which is social media, can be used for also more awareness. And I think platforms like SARIM and other South Asian organizations and sort of individual human rights organizations working in these South Asian countries can use this tool. It's freely accessible to everybody. Can use this tool to create sort of a counter narrative against this, and to identify this. I think that civil society organizations sometimes also identify these issues on social media, like violence on Twitter, hate speech that is being promoted on Twitter, but sometimes there's not enough that is being done against it, or there's not enough like a counter narrative, or added awareness that goes against that. So maybe that is something that civil society organizations and human rights organizations could take up, and sort of to create this counter narrative, and to identify these issues also that come along, because we're not doing, I think we take it case by case. Also, we take it like one off issue and then another issue and then another issue. But there needs to be sort of also, I think, a holistic approach towards how we deal with this kind of online and offline hate speech. So I'll close there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Alam, for highlighting these very important points. Moving forward, now I would like to invite our second last speaker, Mr. Leslie Martin from India. He is a Dalit human rights activist. He has been associated with NCDHR, New Delhi Dalit Bahujan Shramik Union of Telangana State and AP State. Currently, he is working as a social activist and is affiliated with grassroots level organizations, specifically of Dalits and children. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering why we need to discuss this topic, averting disharmony in social media, discrimination towards South Asian minorities. Why, as Dalits and as minorities, we need to take this as into our topic, as though, because we are subjected to discrimination and every day in social media, and we are complaining about it to the same. But at the same time, the topic itself says that we have to think even further in how to avert the disharmony, how to bring in social cohesion in the social media. So that is something that we need to be aware of, that we ourselves are being discriminated, but yet we ourselves are also thinking in the lines of how to break this disharmony that is spreading through social media. And one thing that I would like to clearly say is that to the institute especially, see, we are living in 21st century, and we have to know that identity politics have generations of discrimination and oppression, and the oppressed communities are resisting, and their voices are coming out in whatever manner, either through social media or through general media or electronic media, or anywhere in public meetings. So that is something that that we have to acknowledge ourselves, and we have to be very happy about it, because we are bringing in the change that is required in the society as well as. So at this time, we have to acknowledge who are being targeted in social media. When we say minorities, social minorities in South Asia. So the caste identity is very clear. Caste and subcaste identities are very clear, and those people are specifically targeted for their subcaste identity also. That we need to acknowledge, that the SARIM Institute has to acknowledge that the division of caste, how it is affected for different people. Through the social media, discrimination happens, harassment happens, violence happens, which turns into violence. That is the message that comes in social media. On the ground, it turns into violence. So that is something that which we need to acknowledge, and request the institute to specifically open up the conversations more on the subdivisions of caste and the gender minorities also to come into picture in your later stages. But what we should be very happy about is that in spite of all this happening in the social media, to avert disharmony, to bring in cohesion also, that we have to clearly understand with clarity of mind of Dr. Baba Ambedkar's call that ours is a battle not for wealth or power, it's a battle for realization of human personality. So that is the battle that which we are taking forward when we are discussing this topic in Averting Disharmony, and to bring in cohesion in social media, the discrimination. So that we need to be clear, and we need to get acknowledged of that call given by the great leader and a great leader of the world. And another thing is that he has also said educate, agitate, organize. These three things are very clear. He said educate about yourselves. What it means is that education is not something that which is spoken out. We have to get educated about our own identity and the discrimination that is happening to us, and we have recognized it. We have also recognized in agitating it and bringing it out that. Now, the last thing is that organizing. So we need to create platforms of different forms of platforms in organizing ourselves. It's not a unity, because unity will never happen in this world. That's only a kind of a myth. Even man and woman cannot be united even if they're married. So that's where we need to understand the organizing part of it. That's where I request the SARIM Institute to dwell upon how to organize these discussions into subdivisions of castes and also the thing. And yesterday there was a conversation around social media and minorities. They are facing discrimination, violence in social media. It's a kind of guidance given by minority rights groups, MRG. So I happened to be there as a participant, and so they have brought in all the social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, their representatives also into the picture. And the questions that were coming in from the ground level, the social media experts, organizers were giving explanations of how it is being taken care of, how they are becoming aware of it. So in that manner, I think we need to, SARIM has to ask MRG for this specific group of South Asia and minorities. Maybe we can have a session with them as we go, as we break into different organizations that organizing ourselves into discussing, bringing this topic into the thing. And also we have to see what is that it is being discriminated, what topics are being discriminated, and why it is happening like that. When it comes to the question of Muslims in India, their patriarchy is questioned. That is what comes into picture in the social media. And when it comes to Dalits, their merit is questioned, their merit is discriminated. That kind of discrimination is happening. So it's a targeted discrimination of people who are asserting themselves from the minority groups, from the Dalit groups, from the sexual minorities group, who are asserting themselves in social media about their lives, about their achievements, and about their whatever it is. That is being targeted by the that is being targetedly discriminated. They face discriminated. that this includes professionals also. Professionals like doctors. If there are Dalit doctors, they are discriminated, they are talked against for the reservations and all by the other caste doctors. So this is also happening between the professions that which we consider as have humanity in the doctors. So that is something that SARIM has to also organize when you are organizing. How to bring in that professional group into picture, into the discussions, and bring awareness of their plight, their sufferings into the picture, and their fight against this basic professionalism, questions of the professionalism. That is something that which we can bring in the topic of how to avert disharmony for people who are facing discrimination against minorities. So in this manner, if we organize ourselves, SARIM can play the role of organizing from getting inspiration from the Baba Sahib Ambedkar's call. It will be great. And number two is that this professionalism is also that there are engineers, there are IT industries there, information technology professionals, and especially one targeted community is that migrants who from the Dalit Bahujan community who are migrated and living in other countries or other towns or other cities, when they face discrimination based upon caste or their minorities, minority status, there the local governance doesn't have the mechanism of addressing it. We have to be very clear. Like child laborers in India, when they migrate within the interstate, when they come to from Orissa, they come to Telangana. And here they face caste-based discrimination by the bricklane owners. When that is complained, it cannot be, the police will not accept the case. So that is the status of the migrants in seeking their justice when they're facing discrimination and violence against them in their location of work. So that is something that the category is something that we need to remember. I think SARIM has a greater role in bringing all these different perspectives into the picture of discussions in the mainstream media or social media, or getting articles from different sources, and the way, in the manner in which you are functioning, it is very great, and you can we can function better in much more expanding our thinking. So what is the discrimination aspect, and how we have to counter it, and how we have to understand them, the people who are targetedly attacking the community on social media. Again, taking the inspiration from Baba Ambedkar's words, call for the whole people of the nations. He said, ours is a battle not for wealth or power, but for the realization of human personality. So that's where their mindsets have become so timid that they cannot even think beyond their religious doctrines or the doctrines, whatever they believe in. They cannot think beyond it. It's like they have to cut and copy, paste, use those religious texts for their existence, and they call themselves as meritorious. That's funny thing. The funny thing is that they don't use their education background or technical background or any other background. They use the scriptures, cut them and copy them and paste them into the social media, and they feel that they are merited and their sentiments are hurt. So I will be laughing at the people who say that their sentiments are hurt. My religious sentiments are hurt. I mean, what is your religion? Does it not even make you to think beyond the education that which you got? You got to yourself for education, and you are feel you are merited, and especially the other caste professionals that who discriminate Dalits and minorities in their professionalism based upon caste or this thing. So I used to wonder what happened to their minds, what the education they have, again why they have to copy and paste the texts of religious books, and then based upon that they say that my religious sentiments are hurt. So this is something that that we need to bring out collectively to them, that who are practicing such kind of notions that which affects the Dalit community and other people. And what are the targeting? They are targeting them on the mental health of the Dalit, on the mental health of the minorities, on the mental health of the LGBT communities. So that is something that we need to recognize, that is what we experience when we face discrimination. And that's also one of the things that we need to understand. What is the person's targeting? What is the person being targeted for? He is being targeted for his mental health, and when it resorts into violence, he is being targeted, he or she being targeted physically, and then when it comes to the resources, he or she being targeted of the resources. So this differentiation is also we need to understand, and we need to bring in people who are faced that kind of a thing from the social minority groups and the different minority groups into the picture of discussions. Then collectively we can start thinking of how we can avert the disharmony or bring in social cohesion in the place. And we have to also understand, especially in India, with the national education policy, which is being implemented from 2020 onwards. It does not bring in socializing aspect of the children. It keeps the differences as it is. So the society will improve when the social cohesion is happening, socialization is happening among the people. But this policy actually stops that. Even the socializing aspect that is happening so far, if the children get educated, they will not have their socializing aspect. Different castes will be divided based upon the education they get now. So this danger is there in India. That may lead to international conflicts also, because some people might target some community from a different country, and then it becomes an international conflict. So we need to keep all these things in mind and think of how we can avoid the disharmony, and how we can bring in the social cohesion and socializing aspect of the society, by taking inspiration from Baba Sahib's slogans, the key words that which he has given to the community. It's also not for the community, it's also for the world, the people in the world. People have to know about what Ambedkar has said and how important it is for them, and how we are progressing, we are asserting based upon those words that are there in front of us, that are there as guiding spirits. So three things that which I request this organization to see is that different professions that are faced that are talking about social media discrimination from the professional groups. Those experts need to be organized and they have to be brought in. And migrants also have to be brought into this picture of discussion. And we need to have an interaction with the minority rights group, and where they can bring in, they can influence the social media responsible people to bring into the platform. And then there we can raise the issue of discrimination of South Asian minorities. We can use that platform also to highlight the issues. And we can also request minority rights group that whether they can fund the specific studies into the SARIM institution. So because studies can be conducted also as a. So with that, I'll say Jai Bhim, and I'll stop here. Thank you very much for patience listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, and thank you for your contribution and your suggestions. We'll surely work on it. Last but not the least, I'd like to invite Rimsha Shahid, Deputy Research Analyst at SARIM, to conclude the webinar. Over to you, Rimsha.
So thank you so much, Faiqa, for introducing me. As I'm supposed to conclude this symposium, so before wrapping up the discussion, I would first like to thank all the panelists for sparing your prestigious time to share such remarkable views and opinions. You all have really underlined the key facts regarding the disruption in the lives of minorities and how the social media can be a beneficial tool to eradicate the deeply rooted problems. While concluding the discourse, I would like to sum up the views that has been discussed by our speakers. Firstly, Dr. K. Kalyani, she discussed that the information that have been disseminated through social media generates deep impacts on the minds of individuals. And when the question of justice is raised against the injustices faced by minority communities, people should adhere to such kind of discussion that can portray positivity, cohesion, and inclusivity of all. The discussion then followed by Ms. Rachana Sunar, who shared her experience of growing up as a Dalit woman. It was really sad to hear the vulnerabilities that you have faced, Ms. Rachana. However, I personally appreciate you that you have survived the alienation of perpetrators and came up as a successful human rights activist. Your views regarding ensuring constitutional as well as other fundamental rights of vulnerable minorities by raising voice and advocating for their rights through social media platforms should seriously take into consideration. Our third speaker, Muhammad Asif, shed light on the importance of social media while stating that it controls the minds of masses. He further discussed that if we want to fight against hatred, we first need to know the actors behind such occurrences. Moreover, to curb the hate campaigns, one needs to operate in an organized manner and should follow a proper mechanism. Moreover, monitoring and evaluation is an imperative and integral measure to conduct fact-checking as loads of misinformation and disinformation are being spread by social media. The floor then took over by Ms. Elaine Alam, who discussed that spreading hatred through social media is the most debating issue in the contemporary world. She stated that violence and discrimination against religious minorities of South Asia is incessantly growing despite having certain laws to curb such practices. We have Universal Declaration of Human Rights, EU frameworks, and other international laws, but still they are not yielding results in curbing the violence. Thus, we need to make effort to aware masses about how to use social media, adhering with civic responsibilities, ethics, cohesion, and social inclusivity. And lastly, Mr. Leslie Martin shared his views regarding the ongoing oppression of minority communities since decades. To mitigate the issue, we first need to acknowledge that who has been targeted through social media. Moreover, the minority advocacy institutes should be more open in discussing these issues. Besides, he shared that the only way to get rid of oppression, the communities should attain education regarding their rights and identity, as well as must show unity. The objective of this webinar is to highlight the plight of people who are discriminated because of their religion, caste, creed, or social identity. Moreover, this webinar aims to discuss the prospects and implications of social media in mitigating the discriminatory practices against minorities throughout South Asian region. In the contemporary world, social media has yielded devastating effects of hatred and violence and undermined social cohesion and tolerance. However, its scale and impact are nowadays amplified by new technologies of communication, and to the point that hate speech, including online, has become one of the most frequent methods for spreading divisive rhetoric and ideologies on a global scale and threatening peace. Thus, in order to counter the alarming trends of increasing xenophobia, racism, and intolerance, violent misogyny, and anti-Muslim hatred around the world, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres launched the United Nations Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech on 18th June 2019. The strategy emphasizes the need to counter hate holistically and with full respect for freedom of opinion and expression, while working in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, including civil society organizations, media outlets, tech companies, and social media platforms. Additionally, a research highlights that social media holds the ultimate power to spread peace, encouraging dialogue among people from different ethnic backgrounds, religions, castes, class, and nationalities. A social media expert, Craig Smith, says that social media platform has become a continent on its own, and many people's lives are influenced by social media and online engagement. Taking all these factors into account, it becomes imperative that we realize the hidden power of social media and how it can be used to transform societies, individuals, and even governments. It can affect perception on ethnicity, change attitudes, and promote tolerance and mutual understanding. Thus, it can bridge the divide between ethnic, religious, caste, and class groups that would not otherwise communicate with one another. Social media can also curb political violence, as in the case of the March 2013 Kenyan elections, as well as constitution building processes can also be affected by social media. In a nutshell, SARIM always tries its best to highlight the alarming state of human rights violation and propose practical solution to mitigate these problems. I hope this talk will yield some positive results in terms of ensuring equal rights to the deprived communities. This online symposium with such brilliant minds will surely yield a notable impact in moving ahead towards our targets. I would again like to thank you all for your presence and for sharing your views through our platform and helping us in advancing this cause. We hope that the collaboration will grow vigorously with you all. And last, I would like to thank Heman and Faiqa for moderating this webinar in such an efficient way, and a big appreciation to the team of SARIM for making efforts in meeting the same cause. Wish you all a good day and good luck for future endeavors. Thank you so much for being with us. Goodbye.